Good evening to my viewing audience. It really is a pleasure to be able to connect with you on this wonderful December evening. Today's presentation is number 5 in the series, Communicating on Video. And my topic today is how to prepare and present a speech. That's easy, right? Yes, it is. Once you follow some basic speaking steps. When writing a speech, the main aim of your speech is to communicate a message. So the first question that you should ask yourself is, what is my message? What is it that I would like to communicate to my audience? And when you've answered that question, then you can begin to formulate your speech. The second most important aspect of preparing your speech is knowing your audience. Knowing the general characteristics of who you are speaking to helps you to tailor the information to suit your audience. And once you can speak directly to your audience interests and level of understanding, then your chance of properly relaying your message is greatly increased. Today's tutorial will focus on helping you to prepare and present a speech. The first tip, once you've chosen your topic, choose 3 or 4 main points. A good speech is appropriately timed and is not rambling, and it gives the listening audience time to assimilate the points of the speech. Remember, when choosing your points, your intention is either to inform or to ask your audience to be in agreement with your topic. Therefore, your points must be in support of your main topic and directly focused on achieving your goal, which is most likely an informed, receptive, or persuaded audience. For example, if my topic of choice is to convince an audience to vote for me in an election, my main points would be my suitability as a candidate, which should include my experience and achievements, my goals and plans for office, and my opponent's unsuitability for that position. And remember, even if there's a wealth of information, be concise as possible and do not ramble. One of my favorite quotes I heard about public speaking is where the author, Brian Pafty, said, "Stand up to be seen, speak up to be heard, sit down to be appreciated." In other words, try not to overload your audience with information, as a message that is too convoluted will be lost on the receiver. Tip number 2, a good speech has structure. It has an introduction, it has a body, and it has a conclusion. Your introduction should include the intent of your speech, the purpose of why you're speaking. It should be short and to the point, and it should be no more than 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how much time you have to speak. The body of the speech is where you will place the 3 to 4 main points that we discussed earlier. And the level of elaboration on each point would be dependent on how important that point is. Using the example that we discussed before, if I was speaking to an audience that wanted to know about the future and how me as a candidate would make their life better, I would focus on telling them my goals and plans, because that is the most important thing to my audience. You also need to ensure that the structure of your speech is clear and that it transitions from one point to the next without rambling. And neither is it littered with insignificant anecdotes. For example, if I'm on the campaign trail, tales about my childhood exploits that got me into trouble most likely are not appropriate and will not convince my audience that they need to vote for me. And then finally, your conclusion should be delivered like a final chord in a song. This is your chance to leave your audience with something memorable. Be sure to add in a quick summary of your main points to remind the audience as to why you're engaging them, and end on a high note. Whether it's a quote or a provocative question, a call to action, a warning, results, or consequences. Now that we've discussed preparing your speech, let us talk about some tools to help you deliver your speech. The first tip, and the most important tip, is practice, practice, practice. Let me say that again. Practice, practice, practice. Practicing helps you as the writer to understand what you've written. It will help you to learn the ins and the outs of your speech, the nuances, the highs and the lows. And when your voice and your tone and your inflection can accurately represent your written words, then most likely you have the makings of a well-deserved delivered speech. The second tip is to relax as much as possible. While it's not possible to be totally free of nerves, try not to let your nervousness overtake you. Use relaxation techniques such as deep breathing. Get familiar with your surroundings and audience prior to delivering your speech. Stand up straight when delivering your speech, as a slouched appearance takes away from your authenticity as a speaker. Ensure your body language complements your speech and does not distract from it. And finally, do your best to remind yourself that this is most likely not the UN General Assembly. So relax and give it your best shot. I hope you learned some helpful tips on how to prepare and present a speech. And remember, stand up to be seen, speak up to be heard, and then sit down to be appreciated. Thank you for joining me, and I'm hoping that you'll join me soon again. Good night.